Hello. Today I woke up in a hostel, and next to me was a man who told me I looked hot the moment I woke up. I did not really realize what he said, so I asked him again, and he repeated it. In that situation, I felt a little confused, so I only thanked him, but it made me feel uncomfortable because I was sleeping topless, and I thought I might have sent the wrong signals. In other situations where I have received compliments, I did not think as much about it as I do now. Mostly because he called me hot while I was in a vulnerable moment, and I cannot fully accept it as a compliment. How would you feel in this situation? Story 1. I once got called hot while in a sauna with a man who was most likely gay. I was in nothing but a towel and shirtless. I gave an awkward thanks and kept vibing to the music in my headphones without giving it another thought. I think he sensed that I didn't care and left it alone. If he had continued to escalate it, I would have reacted differently, but he did not, so it was just whatever to me. Story 2. I am gay, and this sounds quite strange to me. I often compliment my gym-going straight friends on their muscles, but I do not hit on strangers while they are still half asleep. Story 3. As a gay man, I think he should have kept his mouth shut. It might be okay to give a compliment in a public setting, but giving a compliment in an area where the person is partially or fully nude is highly inappropriate. Of course, I grew up in rural Alabama, and giving a straight man a compliment was a good way to end up in the hospital. Story 4. Flattered. That being said, as a heterosexual male, I once had my buttocks grabbed at a homosexual bar, and I was not okay with it. Had it happened in any other bar or context, it would be grounds for legal action. No double standards. I do not care where you are, that is not okay. Story 5. Getting told you are hot is not a problem. Getting told your private part tasted great. I am surprised you did not wake up is definitely a problem. Story 6. I have had this experience several times, and I just politely tell them that I am straight. Honestly, I have never had any pushback. All of them have respected it and moved on. Story 7. When I was in college, I worked a food service job where a gay coworker would regularly hit on me and talk about me to my coworkers, who were mostly straight women. This helped me receive positive attention from them as well. It worked out pretty well for me. Story 8. All good until it becomes creepy. What you described would make most heterosexual men, myself included, uncomfortable. Story 9. This happened to me about 20 years ago, but I still occasionally smile about it. A guy approached me at a house party full of bikers, normal motorcyclists, not Hell's Angels type. He approached me, and I was always in awe of the courage. I am 6 feet 2 inches tall with a resting serious face, and there was no way he could have known my reaction. I was genuinely flattered. I told him he was stunning, but I am straight. We had a few beers, and then the flow of the party separated us into different areas. Story 10. I have been approached by both genders my whole life. I do not feel comfortable if a man does it because I am not homosexual, but I do not care that much. Story 11. Don't overthink. Yes, it was perhaps tasting the water, but it was just a compliment. I can understand that the situation directly after waking up was a bit overwhelming. Story 12. I am a straight man who was complimented by a gay man. It made my day. Felt nice to receive a compliment. I told the man I was straight, but I respected his confidence. Story 13. I would feel hot. Feels good to be called hot, especially since a gay man once said they are more selective than women. I do not know if it is true, but I have found I am quite popular with men, so I might actually be hot. Being observed by a stranger while asleep is a bit unsettling to me. I would try to take it at face value, but it would also raise a few concerns. Story 14. I'm flattered. Also, get your eyes checked. I'd appreciate it if you could stop creeping. Thanks, brother. Story 15. The straight gays and the gay gays are different, but in my opinion, from spending time with some gay individuals, I have observed that they sometimes go crazy for men who, in my objective opinion, are not especially good looking. So, to answer the question, maybe, maybe not. Story 16. Common question. So here is my answer. Flattered. Gay men make great wingmen. Follow up. Ask him if I can buy him a drink in exchange for conversation and tips, with the upfront stipulation that I'm straight and we're just a couple of friends talking. I am perfectly comfortable around gay men, even if they are attractive in any way. I know who I am and what I'm about, and I'm cool with just about anyone who's cool with me. Story 17. How were you vulnerable? You were in a hostel in a shared room, so you knew other people would be sharing it with you. Story 18. So far, I have been fortunate, and none of them made it awkward. They handled rejection well and were respectful. So it's fine. Compliments feel good. Story 19. Compliment is a compliment. I would thank them for it and compliment something about them. It would definitely be a boost for the day. Story 20. I know I am attractive. As long as you respect that I am not interested and understand that I am not rude when I reject people, we are fine. Story 21. Amazing. I give compliments too. One should always recognize an amazing work of art. These days, I have to be a bit careful about giving women compliments, but for men, it is easy and honest and shows self-confidence to be able to give an honest compliment. Story 22. As a gay man with many straight friends, I make extra sure not to make them uncomfortable out of respect. Last year, I shared a room with a very attractive straight man I had never met. We were on a group trip for 10 days. I was upfront with him about being gay, and we talked about respect and comfort. We ended up becoming friends. The person who said that to you was either a jerk, immature, or just foolish. Not all of us are like that. I hope you do not form a negative opinion about all gay men based on this experience. Story 23. I was approached by a man at a concert once. I told him I was not interested but appreciated his kindness. Just be kind to people, everyone. Story 24. Saying I look attractive would probably give me a nice confidence boost and I would be on my way. However, sleeping while doing that sets off stranger danger vibes. I will probably turn on my location settings after, not going to lie. Story 25. Yeah, I tell him I appreciate it and keep it moving. I've been complimented by gay men before and in my opinion, it's fine to acknowledge it and show basic human decency, yet still not entertain it or show interest. Keep your responses short and simple. If you see him trying to escalate or take it past that, that's when you address the behavior. Story 26. If the man was watching you while you slept only to say you are hot when you wake up, it is strange. I have been complimented by gay people before, and it is nice, but this situation makes me uncomfortable. Story 27. I am straight, but I get hit on quite a bit by gay men, though not nearly as much by women. By women, no matter the age, it is either very complimenting or, at the least, endearing. By men, it bothers me, but I do not show it or make a deal of it unless they are inappropriate, which is extremely rare. Story 28. A compliment is a compliment. A beautiful woman's compliment may have more impact, but a compliment is still a compliment. Story 29. No idea. I would probably feel weird and say thank you like you did or just nod and simply walk away. Only insistence would annoy or even anger me. Story 30. It does get annoying after a while. In your specific situation, it would be quite off-putting. Having a secure place to sleep makes all the difference sometimes. Story 31. I have had it happen a few times. I do not sweat it. I smile and pretend I do not get it. Only one person got offended. That is on him. Story 32. It seems like it is someone making a flirty comment in passing to see if you are interested, but otherwise a benign interaction. Story 33. I do not mind if a gay man shows interest in me, as long as he respects that I am not gay and therefore I will not reciprocate. Story 34. Next to you as in lying over your bed? Or were you simply in the same room? He sounds very forward, but straight men talk to women like this all the time. To answer your question, no, I probably would not feel complimented, but I would not feel threatened either. Story 35. A compliment is a compliment. I have been called top shelf material by a gay man before. Even though I do not swing that way, it was nice to hear. Story 36. If someone calls you attractive, you already know you are attractive and have heard it many times. I do not mind if people share their opinions. Story 37. This happens all the time because I lead a large fitness community. I am always flattered, and it brightens my day. A compliment is a compliment. Say thank you, brother, and just take it for what it is. Story 38. I have had that and I was happy about it. If anyone tells me I look good, I like it. It does not bother me who it is. Story 39. Typical gay men behave like women, so I would take that as a compliment. Then I would feel uncomfortable with that person and leave. Story 40. Flattered. I have been approached by a couple of gay men. While I was not interested, it did make me feel good. Story 41. It happened before and I was flattered. Thank you. I will take any compliments graciously. Story 42. I take it as a compliment. These glutes and abs do not come for free, and I love when my effort gets noticed. When compliments come from straight men, I also see an additional sense of self-confidence, showing that they can compliment another person without making it inappropriate or awkward. Story 43. I have been. It is flattering. They say that if a member of the same sex calls you attractive, take it as an extreme compliment. Story 44. Thank you, but if you do not have a vagina, it is not very relevant to me. It is like receiving currency from a person in another country thousands of miles away. At least foreign currency has an exchange rate. If you want to help me, please give compliments about me to women. Story 45. I had a gay man call me hot yesterday. It made me feel good because he is my friend and I am currently sick. If it had been a random stranger in a hospital staring at me while I was sleeping, that would have been very creepy. Context is important. Story 46. Worked at a fashion store as a straight man. I would go to the front with the tellers handing me notes with phone numbers on them, and it was always 50-50 whether it was a man or a woman. But I was always flattered nonetheless. Story 47. I would just say thank you and move on. Most gay men I have been complimented by or approached by, around 3 to 4, have asked directly if I was gay. I said no, and they replied, okay or okay, sorry. It was not a big deal to either of us. Story 48. When I was in college, the girl I was dating had a gay friend who commented a few times on my looks. He knew I was not interested and was clearly in a relationship. It was meant as nothing more than a compliment. Story 49. It depends on the context. One time it happened was with one of my gay friends, and I was really excited. I have seen the guys he finds attractive, and they are definitely appealing. I took it as the compliment he intended. We had not seen each other in a few years because he was away at school out of state. I had undergone a significant change in style and fitness during the time he was gone. If it is a guy who will not take no for an answer, it is irritating, much like any unwanted and persistent advances. Story 50. As a gay man, in almost all cases, all you have to do is say thanks. Also, straight men reading this, you are beginning to understand how straight women perceive you. Story 51. I take it as a compliment and move on. Since he knows I am straight, all I have to say is thank you. Story 52. That crosses a line. Everything is situational. Think of yourself, a heterosexual man, approaching a woman in a bar. Tell a woman she looks attractive tonight and try to chat with her. Not creepy. Flattering. Same situation, different setting. It is where she is sleeping in a semi-public setting. Say what he said to you. Creepy. And she is likely to feel unsettled or vulnerable. That is my opinion. The man had poor boundaries. Story 53. Extremely flattered. That being said, I would also let them know that I am heterosexual but appreciate the compliment. Story 54. I would feel like it was a compliment. I generally like compliments. Because I occasionally have decent manners, I would say thanks and keep moving. If 1, it was a compliment and not a proposition, and 2, you are confident and comfortable in who you are, you too will see it as only a compliment and move on with your life. Story 55. I am straight. I think it would be flattering as long as boundaries were respected and it was mentioned very casually. Story 56. In normal everyday situations, I would be more inclined to believe a gay man as an objective measure of my attractiveness. Even compared to a woman who likely faces social pressure from peers when selecting a partner, men are pretty capable of just picking based on looks alone, especially with hookup culture being prominent in the gay community. Thanks, but I do not swing that way. In your situation, it is a bit less comfortable, and the mixed feelings are justified. Story 57. I will get downvoted for this. The same way women have felt about unwanted male compliments. I have heard arguments from women before that there is nothing of value from a man calling them attractive because men have such low standards in what they are willing to sleep with. I assume that logic applies the same way with gay men. Maybe some days, and with the right person, it is a mood lifter, but for most people, these sorts of compliments only matter from the people we are initially interested in. Everything else is just fluff. Story 58. Is it possible that he meant hot, as in uncomfortably warm, since you were sleeping with fewer layers on? Story 59. Depends on the situation. I was once using a urinal, and the man next to me looked over and said, "Nice penis." I told my wife afterward. She said I should take it as a compliment. I was angry. To me, that's definitely crossing a line. A gay friend of mine said he would have been angry too. Story 60. I do not know. It has never happened to me. I would probably feel mildly uncomfortable for a few seconds, then I would not care. Story 61. I would be excited. However, like you, I might feel slightly uncomfortable if I were shirtless because I do not want to give off the wrong signals. Story 62. Normally, I would take it as a compliment, but a stranger who calls you hot right when you wake up is a creep. I regularly stay in hostels, and I can confidently say that the guy was over the line. From when you wake up until you are dressed and leaving the room is a safe zone. If a stranger wants to call you hot as you are making breakfast, that is totally fine. If a stranger wants to call you hot as you are waking up, that is pretty weird. Story 63. In that particular situation, uncaffeinated, I would similarly be at a loss for words. It is too early in the morning, and the vibes feel a bit creepy, like they watched you while you were sleeping. Generally speaking, though, I do find it quite flattering when a homosexual man compliments me. Story 64. That particular situation is unsettling, but in general, I have accepted that gay and bisexual men find me attractive, while women usually do not. Or they never say anything. Story 65. Being called hot by a gay man is not a bad thing, but if you are in a situation like yours, it is unwarranted. Of course, you would feel uncomfortable. This is coming from a bisexual man. Story 66. It happened. I am flattered, but not interested. I told him that at the time. He said, "Hey man, you were looking pretty hot in that uniform." I was wearing Marine Corps dress blues. I replied, "Thanks, man. I appreciate that. But I am straight and not interested." This exchange occurred outside a gay nightclub. He was in a crowd of men hanging out outside the club. I was walking past on my way to an official function. Story 67. It sounds like you were made uncomfortable by it, which is why you are asking on the internet. It will cause a disagreement, but you can say that it made you uncomfortable. It did. Story 68. I think most men who have been in decent shape have been called attractive by other men. But his timing was pretty forward and tactless. He expressed his interest and was rejected. I don't think it's much more than that. However, you have the right to feel uncomfortable and are well within your rights to tell him to leave you alone. Story 69. I would thank them for the compliment, but I am only attracted to women. It has literally happened. I have heard that many men get angry about this because they are insecure. Story 70. A compliment is a compliment. However, sometimes, like in your situation, they can come off as creepy. I can understand why you were creeped out. Story 71. It has happened before. Ordinarily, I would feel flattered, but the situation you have described is kind of weird. Story 72. I'd say that comes with the territory of sleeping at a hostel, especially shirtless. It wasn't the most tactful time to pay someone a compliment. I'll agree to that, but I wouldn't take it as anything creepy unless there's more to it than just the compliment. Not everyone is smooth when it comes to these things. I'm bisexual, so I'm sure the dynamics are a bit different, but this doesn't read as anything except a little awkward. So I just take it in stride even if the guy didn't interest me. I don't think I'd sleep shirtless at a hostel, though. Story 73. I don't know why people overthink compliments, especially in this day and age, with unfiltered neurodivergent objectivity speaking awkward truths aloud. But that is just my 2 cents. Story 74. Compliments are a positive gesture. I have been flirted with by a gay man before, and I honestly thought it was a boost to my chronically low self-esteem. Story 75. I've had this experience. I am flattered. It makes me happy to know that I am desired, but it is not the attention I am seeking, so I give it a wide berth. Story 76. If a gay man complimented me, I would immediately wonder if I look gay somehow, such that it made him think I was a safe person to approach. I would just be neutral about it and continue with my day. However, given your context, I would be more mindful that some men, gay or not, can be creepy when they hit on people. Story 77. That happened. I took it as a compliment and did not overthink it. I am not gay and did not want to embarrass him by telling him that. Story 78. I would say thank you. I am flattered. What is the big deal? It does not mean you are gay or that you have to have sex with him. Story 79. Take it as a compliment. If a homosexual man thinks you are attractive, trust me, their standard of attractive is pretty high. I used to get propositioned by homosexual men because I was good-looking in my youth. As I am completely confident in my masculinity, I simply said thanks for the offer or the compliment, but I was 100% heterosexual. To be kind, depending on the vibe, I might even say, but if I were homosexual, I would definitely consider it. Being confident in yourself allows you to be gracious to others and not overthink things. So what if you had your shirt off? It's not like he climbed in bed with you. I think people are too sensitive about the wrong things. Focus on eternal principles and not passing actions which do not mean as much as we often think they do. Story 80. Uncomfortable. I live in San Diego now, where that lifestyle is celebrated. I have been hit on by gay and transgender women alike, and I always feel uncomfortable. But they are cool, and 9 times out of 10, I was in their safe space when they complimented me, so I just shrug it off and keep doing whatever I was doing. I was probably in Hillcrest hanging out with my gay friend, so a lot of it is expected. Still, I feel uncomfortable anyway. The first time it happened, my immediate thought was, this is how women probably feel when men catcall them. I never did that to begin with due to low confidence, but if I did, having it happen to me would have immediately made me stop. Story 81. May I say nonsense to all the gay men who responded that they would not approach a straight man this way? As a straight man who has constantly been hit on by gay men all my life, I have had enough instances where I received the stare, smile, and compliments. There are many gay men who are actively seeking a straight man. Maybe I am wrong, but isn't it common to try to pursue a straight man? I had a boss who was gay and he always tried to pursue me. Of course, there are shy men who admire from afar, but that has not been my life experience. However, I have never had a gay man try to grab me either. Basically, I have always thanked them for the compliment and moved on. Story 82. Yeah, it can be awkward and sometimes uncomfortable depending on the situation. In your situation, yes, uncomfortable. This is what women often experience when men compliment them. Flattering, I guess, but sometimes uncomfortable. I once got offered a nude modeling job by a sketchy guy wearing a fez who went by the name Space Gibbon. It was around midnight on a street corner, and we were both waiting for the crosswalk signal. Admittedly, I was wearing a fuzzy pink tube top and tight jeans a few sizes too small and was very high. The funniest thing is when I tell people that story, multiple times the response is, "Wait, you met Zach? Don't worry, he's harmless. He just really likes younger blonde men." Story 83. I guess it depends on the situation. A man at a party came over to me and said, "I know you were straight, but you look incredibly hot," which means incredibly attractive in Portuguese. Felt nice. In your situation, it would feel creepy. Story 84. I was drunk once at a Fox and Hound bar in Oklahoma. My friend and I had been drinking for 2 days at this point, so the urgency hit me suddenly. I hurried to the restroom and had an unpleasant experience. While I was there making sure everything was done and playing on my phone, I heard someone enter and use the restroom. There was some shuffling, and after they washed their hands, in a very effeminate male voice they said, "Do you want a blow job?" I froze. I had never been in a more vulnerable state with my pants around my ankles and exposed. When someone asked me that, I froze completely, did not say a word, and then he sighed and walked out. Story 85. It's depressing. I think it's comparable to how women feel when they are flirted with by someone who is below their standards. I don't know, I mean, it's disgusting. Story 86. I would be impressed if someone were brave enough to overcome their fears and get swept up in the rapture of my handsomeness. Some people need to get out of their own heads. A genuine heartfelt compliment is exactly that. Sometimes only a man has the skill to recognize something worthy of a compliment. It is like a mechanic acknowledging your work. Story 87. I love it. It's an ego and confidence boost to know I look good to someone. I blush a little every time. I may not be into them, but their acknowledging that I look good makes me feel good. Story 88. The only response needed is a smile and thanks, Queen. There is no need to assert that you are not gay unless they continue. Just accept the admiration and feel good about yourself for a change. Story 89. Compliments are compliments, and I will take them even if they are from someone I would never be interested in. However, that is a touch on the creepy side. I would not react with hostility, but I would definitely limit my exposure to that person as much as I could. Story 90. During the mid-1980s, New York City club scene was hot, cute, and handsome. Let me buy you a studio apartment or rent you a car. Those were the good old days. I'm straight, but to turn women and gay men, I say, thank you, but no thank you. I'm into women, and no, I don't want to give you a try, but we can be club friends. It's nothing. If you offer me black jelly beans, I would answer the same way. Story 91. Honestly, I would awkwardly give a thank you and just leave it at that. There is no need to escalate the situation for a compliment as long as they are not pressing the issue. If he was touching me or kept initiating after I declined, then he would be met with firm resistance. Story 92. Anyone other than your romantic partner saying you look attractive in a sexual way while asleep is very creepy. Story 93. I have had both women and men call me attractive. It is uncomfortable either way. I do not care what people think of my appearance, and I find it shallow and rude. I know I would never do that to someone else. I have had women and men grab my buttocks, which is unacceptable to me. I became angry both times. The gay man apologized and walked away, but the woman laughed and continued grabbing. Story 94. I am a 24-year-old straight male, but I think if any man called me hot, I would say, wow, thanks. I'm straight, by the way, but I really appreciate the compliment. Story 95. I would feel fine as long as there was no pressure coming at me. People can judge each other as attractive without it being a problem. Take a lesson from the women who experience this all the time and simply say you are not interested. Story 96. The single greatest self-esteem boost I ever received was a hot gay man hitting on me while I was at a urinal. Story 97. I've been working hard for 3 years now to lose weight and get in shape. I was mowing the other day with my shirt off and saw my neighbor and his husband doing yard work. I went over to say hi and chat with them. They gave me the best compliments I've received in about 20 years. They said I looked hot, not talking about the weather, and that if I were gay, I'd have my pick of men, and how I was wasted on my wife. I know much of what they said was jokes and just having fun, but it made me feel like $1,000,000. From how they teased me when I crepe murdered my crepe myrtle and over-trimmed my hydrangeas, I knew they were paying me actual compliments. Those neighbors are the best I've ever had. They even brought in my trash cans when I was on vacation. Best neighbors. Story 98. I was young and I took it as the compliment it was. I also brushed off the attempted pass as it was. Story 99. I would say, "What the heck, dude? Are you gay?" And then continue with my day. Make it very clear not to mess with me or take advantage of me. Story 100. Depends. Is it just a compliment to make me feel good? Or is he showing romantic interest? Because those are two very different things. Story 101. It's uncomfortable. I would assume it feels the same way a girl feels if a guy says she is attractive and she is not interested in him at all. Then again, most times a guy has hit on me, they were over the top and fairly unpleasant, or would not stop doing it and were extremely disrespectful about it. Story 102. Being honest, I would appreciate the compliment, but I also say that I am not attracted to men or masculine features. That does not stop me from valuing and complimenting men on their style and appearance, just not romantically. Story 103. No, miss me with that nonsense. I would probably tell him to be quiet. It is not a compliment. I am clearly straight. Do not be a creep, especially to me. Many gay men enjoy saying this type of thing to troll straight men and make them feel uncomfortable. Then they want to cry and scream homophobic when we notice what they are doing and respond. People are smarter than you think. It is not a compliment. It is testing, and you know it. Leave me alone. If you do not know me, do not say inappropriate things. This is like people saying if I call your wife attractive or say I want to be with her, you should take it as a compliment. That is a good way to get punched. It is not a compliment. It is a game and it is disrespectful. People need some morals and manners. Miss me with that nonsense completely. Story 104. A compliment is a compliment. Now you have to think. Does this mean you are attractive to girls as well? Or does it only mean you are attractive to gay men? I suppose it depends. Story 105. I was out with my wife one night, and I thought a man was looking at her. I went to the bar, and when I came back, she told me the man had come over and told her how lucky she was. Story 106. I got a beer and double whiskey from a man trying to get me to go home as the third wheel. I said thank you and no. But hey, I got free drinks. Kind of made me feel good. Story 107. I was told I would fit really well in the gay bear community or the gay biker community. I wasn't sure what to say, and the first thing that came to mind was, sure, anytime. Story 108. As a gay man, these kinds of stories make me cringe. There is a time and place for compliments between men, especially when you do not know them well and are unsure of their sexual orientation. Approaching them in vulnerable situations like this, in a sauna, or in a shared shower is creepy. Takes all kinds, and some people have no tact. I would just brush it off. However, if it escalates or continues, be direct and firm. Tell them, thanks, but no thanks, which means you are not interested. Story 109. I would normally just take the mild ego boost and move on. However, in a situation where a stranger is complimenting me in a shared hostel after I wake up, I would be cautious and definitely not get drunk. Story 110. I would be cautious of sexual assault. Definitely keep my distance and do not encourage it. However, after it is all over and done with, I would be flattered. Story 111. Flattered, but I would not be drinking or eating anything I had in the room with me anymore. I would just go buy new items out of an abundance of caution. Story 112. Would not bother me personally. It is a little weird because it is a hostel and you are sleeping in a big room with strangers. But if that is all he said, he was probably just trying to find out if you were gay too. I would just take the compliment, and if it comes up again, make it clear you are not interested. Story 113. I get a little awkward when I receive any sort of compliment, but it is at its highest when it comes from someone I do not find attractive. Whether that is a woman I do not find attractive or a person of a gender I am not attracted to. Story 114. I am a gay man, and honestly, I understand why you would feel uncomfortable. It also depends on how it was said. Was it friendly? Was it with a sense of humor? Was it being seductive? Nonetheless, compliments are compliments and could help you boost your confidence. Just accept them and move forward. Story 115. It depends on the person. If he is just flirting, it is flattering, but if he does not stop when I say I am not interested, he is a creep. Commenting on how you look while sleeping in a hostel is creepy. This is not a sexual orientation issue, it is a male behavior issue. This is the reason women are guarded around men. Too many of them are creepy and do not take no for an answer. Story 116. This is why I don't go to hostels in the first place, because they only discriminate based on gender, not on sexual orientation as well. I think in the future we'll have to redesign spaces like toilets, showers, and hostels to account for sexual orientation, eliminating sexual segregation altogether. To answer your question, any sort of behavior like that should be stopped. Maybe respond in a hostile way. Why do I need to know about you and your homosexuality? Or just, that's inappropriate. Does this place look like a dating app to you? If you are heterosexual, you might find their interests unappealing, and you won't face the daily issues experienced by sexual minorities. It's reckless and indecent to approach strangers and make inappropriate comments, especially when they are likely of a different orientation. Fortunately, I live in Saudi Arabia now. Story 117. I always take it as a compliment the few times it has happened. I am straight, but it is still nice to hear. Story 118. That's kind of you. If you see the woman from the hostel you enjoyed talking to, could you share that with her? Story 119. It happened to me many times, and it has not always unfolded in a polite way. I think every man should experience this at least once in a lifetime. That way, they will probably understand what women go through when they are harassed. Story 120. If you go where waste is, expect to smell waste. Expect other waste to want to interact with you. If you find yourself in the anus, know that waste forms there. Fart back and exit the anus promptly unless you are interested in waste. I never liked being approached by ideas I would never consider a good future. Just say no, thank you. You cannot pet every dog you see just because you think they are cute. Story 121. I would feel disrespected. I do not play that, and no man should ever feel comfortable saying nonsense like that to another man. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.